Welcome to the BSSK radio show. I am your host, Onomi Shoro. This show is all about you, your music, your voice, your stories. In these series of interviews, we're talking to people who have left their native lands and moved to Korea to teach English. My guest tonight is Shah Alemu Makbib. Did I pronounce your name correctly?
You were so close.
I was kind of hesitant to say the last part. I was like, I'm sure I said that wrong.
Shah Alemu Makbib.
Shah Alemu Makbib.
Yes.
Can I call you Shah?
Yes, of course.
Excellent. Okay, Shah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yes. I'm 35 years old. My mother was Filipino. My father's Black American. I was born in Japan and moved to the States when I was about 4 years old, where I grew up in San Diego, California.
Excellent. And when did you decide to move to Korea?
I decided in 2006, and I actually arrived in February of 2007.
Wow. Wow, that's a long time. So you're pretty much a veteran of Korea now.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Excellent. I'm going to let the listeners know that Shah created a Facebook group, Brothers and Sisters in Korea, which has a huge amount of members, and it's very lively and active discussions are going on there all the time. Shah, can you just tell us what motivated you to create that Facebook group?
When I came to Korea, I was really happy with my decision. I really loved the job. I was cool with the culture. Everything was great, but I really missed my own culture. I knew there were Black people here, but I didn't know, how to connect with any. You don't see many foreigners, period, and you see even less brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, Facebook was just kind of starting to blow up online, and I thought, every time I was meeting someone, they were on Facebook. So I thought, if we make an online group, then we can connect and find each other.
Excellent. Well, as I said, it is. I have been in Korea for, just over 4 years, and I had never come across the Brothers and Sisters Facebook group until about 3 months ago.
Oh.
And I was stunned by that. I was like, there is a group for Black teachers here, and I've missed it all this time.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, we're at nearly 2,000 members now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so since being in Korea, do you feel that you have become less wary of people? I mean, by that I mean less sensitive in regards to language that people might use, that in your native land you would have got upset by. But because you know that Koreans lack cultural sensitivity, that what they say, they don't really mean any offense by. So, I mean, one doesn't really get offended by it. Do you think you've become less wary?
Well, before I came, I was well aware Korean is a really homogenous society. So when people say things, I'm not really offended because they don't know. So it's not really anything for me to get mad about. That's in life. That's your opportunity to teach something or to just brush it aside. I've found I've had more problems with fellow foreigners, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you give us an example of something that has caused you a problem or offense?
I've got a great example, Renee. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so when you're settled here in Korea, you need to find a hobby. So I took up knitting, and I'm part of this group. We're called Soul Stitchin' Bitch. And
wait, one second. Why did you decide on knitting?
Well, I took a workshop once back home in San Diego, and I never really had the time to really get into it or develop it. So I had the time here in Korea, so I started. That was it. There's just such an abundance of yarn that you can buy here, and I don't know. It gets cold. I'm from San Diego. I'm not used to this weather.
Okay.
I need to late. I am one to learn to make a sweater, So,
Awesome.
so
Okay.
I've been going to this stitching bitch group for about 3 years, and the women in this group, we're all foreigners. We help each other. Knitting is what we have in common, and most of us are teachers. Um, so one day in the group, one of the women was talking about, she was really excited about going to this workshop to make slave jewelry. And
Slave jewelry.
yeah, and
What is slave jewelry?
slave jewelry is, you can Google it and see lots of pictures. It's jewelry, things like bracelets and rings, but connected by chains.
Hmm. And it's actually
And
called slave jewelry. That's the actual name of it.
I don't know where the term came from, but I definitely know that that term is not okay.
Hmm.
So when she said that, it really threw me off. Again, we're not best friends, but I've known her for about 3 years, and I put my needles down. I was like, there has got to be another name we can call that. And she just very casually, flippantly said, "Oh no, that's what it's called."
Was this an
And
American teacher who said this to you?
yes, yes, she was a white American teacher. She's been in Korea about 3 years or so.
Hmm.
Um, she was from Georgia, I think, or I'm not quite sure, but I was highly offended.
Hmm.
Um, and I think what that has shown me, that if someone Korean had said that, it wouldn't have bothered me as much, because a Korean wouldn't know, probably, the history of that and how that could offend someone, how that could be wrong. And also, if this had happened at home
Hmm.
in America, I might have just done nothing more than rolled my eyes. I mean, every day you experience something, you hear something that someone says, and it happens so much that you get a really thick skin, and you pick and choose your battles.
You just brush it aside.
Yeah, but since I've been in Korea so long, it's much less frequent that I have to hear those sort of things or deal with those sort of things from other Americans or other foreigners like me. So her saying that, it really, really rubbed me the wrong way.
And did you tell her that?
I did. I said, there's got to be another name for that. She said, no, that's what it's called. And I think I just said nothing more than, let's call it chain jewelry and keep this moving.
Okay, if listeners listen very carefully, do you have a cat in the background or something?
I have two cats. I'm sorry. Yeah.
No problem, no problem. Okay, let's go into the first track. What track have you selected for us?
Yes. So this is jazz fusion, very talented Daniel Brando,
Hmm.
and this track is called "Click to Call" from his
Click.
album. Yes, from his album Underground Horn.
Okay, here we go. Here's Click to Call. Okay, we're back. Did you enjoy that track, Shah?
Oh, very much so.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. What do you think the general notion is in regard to how Korean people think their children will respond to black teachers?
Um, well, we've all heard stories that schools don't want to hire black teachers because they're afraid of what the parents will think or how the parents will feel, and maybe they're afraid that children would be afraid. Uh, I think those sort of things I can't really concern myself with. A school that has that attitude is not a school that I want to work for, so
Exactly.
I'm not really worried about it. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, again, Korea is very homogenous, and the children might be really thrown off the first time that they see you, but they're kids, and you give them some time, and they'll warm up.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, like I remember one incident. Well, I definitely have a bunch of notes from kids that when they're leaving my hagwon or on Teacher's Day, they write a note, and a lot of them say, Shaw teacher, when I first met you, I was nervous or I was afraid or I was scared, but now I'm always happy when I come to your class. Da 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 da.
Beautiful.
Kids, yeah,
Yeah.
kids warm up.
I've had a few notes like that as well. Like,
Yeah,
teacher, when I first saw you, you're so scary.
yeah,
But now you're leaving. I will miss you. I love
yeah,
you. And
yeah,
those are always very heartwarming.
yeah.
Mm. Have you mainly taught in Hogwans?
Yeah, I've been with the same company the whole time I've been here.
Wow.
Yeah.
And for
Different locations, but same company.
and for anybody who doesn't know what a Hogwan is, could you just explain to them briefly?
Yeah. So here in Korea, children go to public school during the day, and after school, they go to these private specialized schools for different subjects, math, science, music, art. So most foreigners here, we teach at English private academies or English hagwon. Hagwon is the Korean word for academy.
Is private academy and a Hogwan pretty much the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, excellent, excellent. Also, do you have any experience or any examples that you can give us of children who have responded to your skin color in a positive way?
Yeah. Um,
I'm sure there must be many, but one that kind of really sticks out in your mind.
Yeah, there's one time I remember I was helping one student. I'll never forget. Her name was Alice. She must have been about 6 or 7 years old. And I'm leaning over the desk telling her something, and my hand is on the desk. And Alice was a little darker skinned than most of the Korean kids I've seen. And she put her hand next to mine and just kind of stroked my hand a little bit.
Hmm.
And I just thought that was really sweet. It just really touched me.
Yeah, I've noticed that they give the darkest skinned Koreans quite a hard time
Yeah.
in the public schools that I've been in.
Hmm.
And I'm sure most people who if they were outside of Korea wouldn't even say that they were dark skinned, but
Mm-hmm.
in Koreans' chart of skin ranges, they're considered
Hmm.
to be dark.
Hmm.
Yeah, well. Anyway, moving on. You told me earlier before we started recording this interview that you used to have dreads.
Yes.
Were you treated differently by the Koreans when you had dreads?
Uh, I kept my locks for my first 3 months here in Korea before I cut my hair off. And the students would react, they would say things like, "Oh, teacher, reggae hair," and walking around. Maybe I got some stares. I didn't really notice so much, but definitely some. I remember one time I was on the subway
Mm-hmm.
and I felt something like kind of tickling my back, and
Something
I
what?
turned
Something doing what?
something tickling my back
Oh, okay.
because my hair was quite long. It was to my elbows at this point, and I turn around and I see this really old Joshi, this elder Korean man, and he was touching my hair. I guess it was really attracting me, and he just wanted to know what it felt like.
Uh-huh.
And when I
So
turned
he
around
was
and
he was
caught him,
touching your hair without asking permission
yeah,
from you?
Oh yeah. So when I ripped around and saw him, he got really shy. He smiled and covered his mouth, and he apologized in Korean. And I thought it was pretty cute. But they've never seen anything like that before, so it's
Okay.
just,
And
more.
what about your employers? What did they say when you had your hair cut?
They knew I had locks when I came in, so
So it wasn't a problem for them.
yeah, no questions, no comments.
Excellent. Okay. Do you think, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories that in Korea that domestic abuse is quite high,
Hmm.
and there I've spoken to foreigners or native teachers who have seen certain incidences on the street.
Hmm.
Maybe a husband has been attacking his wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend arguments, which could be turning physical, and they have been really confused about what to do.
Hmm.
I mean, this isn't our culture, so should we intervene, or should we just walk away? Since you've been here for 4 years, what would you say, what is your experience, and what advice could you give other people about being in that kind of situation or seeing that situation?
Yeah, I think regardless of where you are or who you are, if you see a man putting his hands on a woman, I don't think it's okay to just put your head down or walk away. You don't necessarily have to step in and start throwing blows, but
Hmm.
even if you just stand there and watch from a distance, that might even be enough to diffuse a situation. I don't
Hmm.
think it's okay to just keep walking. There was one incident. I was walking home one night and I saw this middle-aged Korean couple arguing.
Hmm.
And I don't know didn't know what they were saying, of course, but the man was really aggressive and he starts to push her. She was up against a wall.
Hmm.
So she fell down and she was cornered. He was pushing her and he started to kick her and he
He
was
was
still
kicking her?
yelling. Yeah, it was getting violent. He was pushing and kicking. Uh, I just walked up and kind of just put myself between them.
Hmm.
The man was still yelling and he pushed me a little bit, but I just stood there and it was enough so that the woman could get up and run away.
So when he pushed you, was he pushing you violently, or was it just like a little shove?
It was a hard shove. It was some hard shoves,
Hmm.
but uh, again, I think um, I couldn't walk away from that situation. Uh, and maybe I'm lucky that I'm a woman that I could stand there and do that. If I was a man, maybe this Korean man would have gotten really violent or something. But
Okay.
something had to be done. You can't just walk away from that. If you see something wrong, you have to do something about it. Just because this isn't my culture, still some things are universally wrong.
Okay. So you would step in. Would you advise other people to step in as well?
I wouldn't advise a man to step in, but I would advise a man maybe to keep his distance and stand there and watch. Maybe
Hmm.
pull out his camera or something, you
Okay.
know. But we
Yeah.
can't walk away from that.
I mean, that's a tricky situation because on the one hand, you really do want to participate. I was in my local Home Plus,
Hmm.
and I saw it's a restaurant in Home Plus where you can go and have little meals at lunchtime and stuff. Anyway, there was a mother with her daughter, and her daughter was really screaming and crying and just yelling really loudly.
Hmm.
And the mother had this little small purse, and
Hmm.
she whacked the child across the face with it really hard out of frustration and anger. And I saw that and I was shocked, and I was like, oh, I really don't want to be seeing that while I'm just eating my bibimbap. So
Hmm.
I was like, what do I do? So I thought, okay, if it happens again, I'm going to say something or react in some way.
Hmm.
The child didn't stop crying. She seemed to be kind of used. It seemed, in my eyes, it seemed like she was used to being hit. So anyway, she kept on screaming. Then the mother just slapped her
Oh
with her
God.
hand. And I was like, so I started saying, hey, 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 don't do that, don't do that. And the woman completely ignored me. The child kept on crying and she kept on hitting the child. And
Hmm.
I was really in a confused state. I really didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should go over to her and say, look, don't hit the child, or if I should just walk away. Luckily, that the kind of bell rang for them to collect their food, and they moved to another area, and I had finished my meal, and I walked off. And when I got back to school, I told my Korean teachers about it, and the general reaction I got from them was that you shouldn't do anything. You should just
Uh,
not get involved in that kind of situation. But that kind of really left a sour taste in my mouth because I was like,
yeah,
I don't want to watch a child getting abused. And to my
yeah,
eyes, it looked like abuse.
yeah. Well, Onome, you said something and maybe it didn't work, but don't you feel glad that you at least said something?
Well, well, I'm not sure because
Yeah.
it wasn't necessarily effective. She
Yeah.
didn't stop hitting the child, and I'm sure she's still continuing to hit the child.
Mm.
And it seemed to me that the child was pretty immune to
Mm.
the blows because she didn't react. She just kept
Yeah.
on wailing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a
Well,
difficult one.
I'm glad you said something because I mean, at least you tried. I guess maybe that's what I'm trying to say. At least try. At least you
Mm,
didn't just walk away. I mean, you said something, and maybe if it had continued, if you'd have said something again, maybe she would have stopped. But at least you made some efforts. But if we don't do anything, uh, I just don't think that's not an option. How can you live with yourself if you don't do anything at all?
yeah. Okay. So let's move on to the next question.
Mm-hmm.
You touched earlier on about creating the Facebook group
Mm-hmm.
because you didn't feel that there was enough information out there for people of color coming to Korea.
Mm-hmm.
Could you let the listeners know about Dave's Cafe
Mm-hmm.
and what it is, so they have a little idea of the forum that is Dave's ESL Cafe.
Yes. Maybe the most popular website for teaching ESL abroad is eslcafe.com, also known as Dave's. And when I started my research into my job search, I went on to Dave's to read about what it's like to live and work in South Korea. I got a lot of useful information, but every time I let it be known that I was black, I was met with overwhelmingly negative response of people telling me I should stay away from Korea.
Really?
Yes, that everyone said it's so hard. It's going to be so hard for you here. Koreans hate black people. You should just go to Japan. Forget this job search now. Blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
And your experience, would you say your experience has been the contrary to that?
yeah, absolutely. It's not been. I mean, uh, it deterred my job search for a little while. I put it aside for maybe a month or so. It really brought me down. And then
Hmm.
I stopped and reflected and realized, okay, well, first of all, this is internet of people telling me this, and then that's the nature of a forum. You'll get a lot of negative responses, but also these were white males giving me this advice.
Hmm.
And the situation is that they have left their place of privilege for the first time in their lives and moved somewhere where they are not the majority, and they had trouble adjusting.
Hmm.
Whereas I think for people of color, we don't come from a place of privilege, and it's really not such a big deal for us um, if we're not treated special. You know, we have to work a little harder for things, but that's nothing new.
But I understand what you're saying, but I have to say, coming from London to Korea,
Yeah.
I experienced so much attention and so much friendliness upon
Mm-hmm.
arriving that I was taken aback by it, and
Mm-hmm.
I had to send a message back to my family that I was feeling a bit like seems a bit silly thing to say, but I felt like a bit like a pop star. People staring
Mm-hmm.
at me and kids running
Yeah.
up to me and hugging me and stuff. And I too looked on Dave's ESL, and you're right. The responses I got on there were predominantly negative. So when I came here and I experienced the opposite of that, I
Mm-hmm.
was really, really taken aback by that. And I was like, yeah, people need to know that coming to Korea, obviously it depends on your attitude and your mindset as well,
Yeah.
but it can be a really joyful experience.
Yeah. People have been so kind to me. I don't really have any close Korean friends, but strangers have, majority of the time have been really kind. I mean, it's been, I'm coming up on 5 years, but even to this day, if I'm walking around, if I even look like I might be lost,
Hmm.
a Korean person will stop and ask me if I need help or, if I need to know where someplace is or if I need help getting to where I'm trying to go. Yeah. People are really kind.
Excellent. So I think we are, especially with you being here for 4 years plus,
Hmm.
that it's a really good example that life in Korea for a person of color can be a really rewarding experience.
Mm, absolutely.
Is there any words of wisdom that you would like to share to any potential teachers coming here?
I want to say definitely don't be afraid to go abroad and listen to Oname's interviews and check out BSSK and the other links that they have there. And yeah, step outside the box. Life here can be really, really nice.
Do you have any plans to go back soon to America?
Actually, this is going to be my last contract here in Korea. My contract ends in August, and I'm making moves to go teach in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so before we leave, can you tell the listeners your last track, the last track that you've picked?
Yes, this is also by a very talented Daniel Brandel from his album Underground Horn, and this track is called Beginning of Four.
Okay, here's the track. Bye-bye. Would you like to say bye-bye?
Oh, yeah, okay, bye, thank you.
Here's the track.